Welcome to the channel, and to everyone watching for the very first time, thank you for being here. Whether you discovered this story through curiosity, concern, or a deep interest in mysteries that refuse to fade away, you are now part of a conversation that has captured attention across the internet. Today, we are exploring a story that continues to raise questions, a story that many believe still holds hidden details waiting to be understood. It is the story surrounding the mysterious final hours connected to Yu Meng Long and the strange report of someone who may have been present that night, an unknown visitor. When the tragic news about Yu Meng Long first appeared online, fans around the world were shocked. For many people, he represented talent, ambition, and a promising future that seemed to be growing brighter each year. His performances had built a loyal community of supporters who followed his work closely, celebrating each new achievement and sharing excitement whenever he appeared on stage or screen. That is why the sudden announcement of his death felt unreal to those who admired him. In the first hours after the news spread, the internet filled with messages of disbelief. Fans wrote emotional tributes, shared favorite moments from his career, and expressed how deeply the loss affected them. People searched for information, hoping to understand what had happened. At first, it seemed likely that answers would soon follow. In situations like this, investigations normally bring clarity, and with time the facts become known. But something unusual happened instead. While certain details were discussed publicly, other parts of the story seemed to remain unclear. As days passed, the timeline of Yu Meng Long's final hours continued to attract attention from those trying to understand the full picture. Questions appeared online, not as accusations, but as expressions of confusion. What exactly had taken place that night? Who had been with him? And what events unfolded during the hours leading up to the tragedy? Among the many conversations, one small story began to circulate quietly. It did not come from official statements or dramatic headlines. Instead, it came from a memory shared by someone who lived near the location connected to that evening. According to that account, a person unfamiliar to the area had been seen approaching the building sometime late that night. At first, the sighting seemed ordinary. Cities are full of strangers. People visit friends, attend meetings, or pass through neighborhoods every day without anyone thinking twice about it. A single person entering a building would rarely stand out as unusual. Yet when the tragic news about Yu Meng Long became widely known, the memory of that visitor started to feel different. The witness recalled seeing the person walking toward the entrance of the building with a purposeful stride. The street had been quiet, with only a few lights glowing from nearby windows. The figure moved quickly but calmly, as if they knew exactly where they were going. There was no sign of hesitation. The visitor reached the entrance and disappeared inside. At the time, the moment passed without much thought. The witness simply returned to whatever they had been doing that evening. It was only later, after hearing the devastating news, that the memory returned with unexpected clarity. Who had that person been? Why were they there so late at night? And perhaps most important of all, had anyone else noticed them? As this small story began circulating among online communities following the case, curiosity grew quickly. People began asking whether the unknown visitor could have played any role in the events that followed. Some observers dismissed the idea immediately. They pointed out that a single sighting does not prove anything. The person could easily have been a resident's friend, a delivery worker, or someone who simply entered the wrong building before realizing their mistake. But others felt the timing was too strange to ignore. When tragedies occur, even small details can begin to feel significant. Human curiosity naturally looks for patterns and connections, especially when parts of a story remain unclear. Not long after the story of the visitor appeared, another account surfaced. A second witness claimed they had seen someone leaving the same building later that night. The description was not detailed enough to confirm whether it was the same individual, but the moment itself raised even more questions. According to the witness, the figure stepped outside and paused briefly near the doorway. Then the person looked back over their shoulder before walking quickly down the street and disappearing into the darkness. It was a small moment, lasting only seconds. Yet the image it created was powerful. Many people following the story could not stop imagining the scene. A quiet street late at night. Dim lighting reflecting on empty sidewalks. And a lone figure leaving the building, connected to the final hours of Yu Meng Long's life. Whether the person had any connection to the tragedy or not, the timing felt unsettling. Online discussions intensified. Fans began comparing the two accounts, wondering whether the visitor seen earlier and the figure leaving later might have been the same person. If they were, it meant someone had entered the building that night and left again during the mysterious time period people had been trying to understand. The question returned again and again. Who was the unknown visitor that night? Some believed the person might have been someone Yu Meng Long knew personally. Others wondered whether it had been a meeting that no one else knew about. A few theories suggested the possibility that the visitor might have held information about what happened during the final hours. Of course, without confirmed evidence, every idea remained speculation. Still, curiosity continued growing. People began examining every detail of the timeline. They discussed the hours before the tragedy and the reports that had already been released. They asked whether security cameras in the area might have captured anything useful. But no clear answers appeared. In many ways, the mystery of the unknown visitor became symbolic of the larger questions surrounding that night. It represented the small pieces of a story that seemed incomplete. And when a story feels incomplete, the human mind continues searching for the missing parts. For fans of Yu Meng Long, this curiosity came from a place of care. They admired his work and the passion he brought to his career. Many felt that understanding the truth about his final hours was a way of honoring his memory. At the same time, others reminded people to be cautious about drawing conclusions from limited information. Memories can be imperfect, especially when they are recalled after a shocking event. Still, the story of the visitor remained impossible to ignore. Even months later, discussions occasionally returned to the same haunting image. Someone approaching the building late that night, and someone leaving later while glancing back toward the entrance. Sometimes the smallest details leave the strongest impressions. A single look over the shoulder can create a moment that lingers in people's minds for years. Whether the visitor had any real connection to the tragedy or not, the sighting became one of the most talked about elements of the mystery. It reminded people how quickly an ordinary moment can transform into something meaningful when viewed through the lens of hindsight. For those who followed Yu Meng Long's career, the story was never just about unanswered questions. It was also about remembering the person behind the headlines. He was an artist who had worked hard to reach his dreams. His performances inspired audiences, and his presence brought energy to every project he joined. The admiration fans felt for him did not disappear simply because time passed. Instead, it turned into a quiet determination to keep discussing his story and the questions that still remained. Perhaps one day the full timeline of that night will become clearer. Perhaps the unknown visitor will be identified, and the mystery will finally fade away. Or perhaps the moment will remain what it is today, a brief and unexplained detail in a story that still feels unfinished. Until that day comes, the image of that visitor continues to live in the imagination of those who heard the account. A person walking toward a building. A quiet pause near the entrance. And later, a figure stepping back out into the darkness of the street. Thank you to everyone watching this video and spending time exploring this story. If this is your first time here, you are very welcome to the channel. Your curiosity and thoughtful attention help keep discussions like this alive. If you found this story fascinating or thought-provoking, please support the channel by subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss the next video. There are many more powerful stories and mysterious events that we will continue exploring together. Also take time to watch the other videos on this channel, because each story connects in surprising ways and may reveal clues or perspectives that add new meaning to the mystery we discussed today. Thank you again for watching, and remember that sometimes the truth hides inside the smallest details, waiting patiently for someone curious enough to notice them.